here on the bench, and I'm trying a different camera setup here, so hopefully this works out. You see a bunch of bits and pieces here, bits and bobs. Let me get that adjusted a little better. All this junk, and actually another wheel set that isn't here, I got in this Ziploc bag at the local local hobby store in their junk bin for $5. But looking inside the bag, through the bag, I recognized that there were a few pieces here that definitely went together. And I thought, for $5, I'm willing to take a chance, and I'm betting I can make a running engine because it looks like the parts for at least one engine is here. Now, for $5, worth a gamble. So, we're going to get started. Now, the first thing is, I know that this body doesn't go to any of these frames. These little metal frames here, these are Gwebberarts or Rivasi, depending on how you want to pronounce it. These are made in Italy. And these are nice little, they're toy engines, but they're nice little toy engines. And metal frame. This one is a can motor, which I'm not going to use because this one is already wired to the frame, so I know this motor goes to this frame. I did, however, already change the contact points for the wheels because the ones that were originally on this block were pretty much destroyed. So while I have it apart, before I do any assembly work here, I'm going to just quickly find my little pot here. Okay, a little bit of alcohol, and I'm just going to quickly clean a little bit in a few spots just to get some of the crud off. As you can see, there's some crud on there, especially on these electric contact points here, because it needs it. Now, I'm not doing a full cleanup job like I would on a good engine. A little piece of plastic in there, probably an insulator that somebody put in. I'm just doing a little quickie cleanup so that I'll have at least reasonable contact. There we go. That's good enough. All right, so this motor, this big giant motor, goes in some direction. There we go. Looks like it goes this way because that's the screw hole up there. That's a very awkward place for the screw. Now, I know this little shorty screw, and I don't know if you can see how incredibly short that screw is compared to this one. I know that came out of this block motor. And because that screw literally has to go in a slot right above this worm gear, it's going to make holding onto that screw very difficult. So I'm going to show you a little trick. This is beeswax. You take a little bit on your screwdriver and you put it on top of your screw and you press it into the slot. And now when you shove your screwdriver into the beeswax and into the slot, your screw stays right there. So now I can reach in here without too much trouble, hopefully, and get in that hole. It's a tricky one. It's very hard to see it, for one thing, and it's even harder to get it lined up. Yep, I gotta get my beeswax back in the center there. There we go. And that'll grip my screw. Get everything lined up. They literally made this as difficult as they possibly could. And there it goes. It's in. All right. All right, so that's in there. And I just need to tighten it down just a little bit. Snug it up. All right. There's that. Now that we have that, let's put some power to this and see if our little engine even turns over. Plug in our power supply, turn the power on, turn up the juice. All right, the ground, we're going to attempt it like it would be in the engine. We'll put the ground on the frame, and then we'll just touch the motor lead and see what we get. Oh, that's not very promising. All right, let's see if I touch the motor leads, if it makes any go-go. All right, let's make sure that our transformer is actually putting out some power with a little test motor. Whoopsie. That was funny. No. My transformer is not putting out any power. Why? Because I've plugged in the wrong thing, it looks like. Yes, that's why. Huh. I plugged in my soldering iron, not my transformer. All right, so this motor is turning over. That's my little test motor to make sure that, because sometimes, just like I say, you know, I make that mistake, and that's why I always have something to test with. All right, so back to where we were. I'm gonna clip that onto our metal frame. There we go. We have a runner. All right. Now we just need to get the wheels put onto it and get them on there in the right direction, because one side of this will be insulated and one side will not. And it looks like it goes that way, I think. So we can flip this over. So that's the power side. Before I do that, I want to clean this gear. This gear looks horrendous. Little toothbrush action. All right, that's better. All right, so now I need to get these rods into the steam boxes, or whatever they are. I assume that's what they are. Oddly enough, I don't know all the technical terms for real train engines. Then we just need to rotate this until it's willing to fall into its little gear places. Come on, that has to go in that slot. That has to go in that slot. There it goes. All right, that gear is engaged. That wheel is down there where it belongs. All right, so now I can grab this base plate and I'm just going to stick it on here like that, and I'm going to test again to make sure that I have the power going through the wheels in the right direction. All right, that looks pretty groovy. All right, so pop that off. I know this body fits this frame, and so that's that. Okay, the trick is to get this turned over, and we're going to put just a dab of gear lube on the worm gear, like so. We're going to put just a drop of oil on the armature shaft, like so, and like so. I really can't see my camera position, so I'm hoping I'm staying in frame for you guys. Okay, so we got a little lube on there. And now it just looks like I need to get this inside the body. Now this is a real interesting little thing in this little Italian job. It's got this little connector. It's funny, modern model trains frequently they hardwire the lights, and this one has a plug, and this thing is probably 40 years old. And the trick is to get this wire, motor wire, in a place where the body is not going to interfere with it. All right, that should do it, because it's a snug fit from the looks of it. Up, I see. I need to get the tail. Okay. Need to hold this and flex the tail plate so that the back end of the frame can slip in. Like that. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Then that plate goes on like that. This big screw goes in there. Well, that big screw is supposed to go in there. Oh, a little misalignment. Okay, there we go. I was pretty sure that big screw went in there. And that's good. Then there's a little socket between the wheel pickups for this wire and its little connector to slip into. Just like that. All right. So our little engine is assembled. Okay, so yeah, it's missing some handrails and it's got a few chips and dents and whatnot on it. But it's not a bad little engine from the looks of it. So now I'm going to take it over to the track, the newly created track, and we're going to test it out. I've got some little train cars already set up in hopes that this is going to work. And we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm going to cut the camera and move over there. Okay, so we're back, and we're getting ready to test out this engine. One thing I needed to do was I had to make a little plastic drawbar to hook up to its tender, because that's the one part that was missing. So I'm going to stick that on there real quick off camera. It just slips in. It's nothing spectacular. There we go. Slips right in like that. Then we put the engine on the track. And then we put the tender on the engine. Get the tender wheels on the track. All right, we're going to back it up a little bit. Now I've got quite a few cars on the back end of this engine. And they're roughly the same scale as the engine is. They're not they're HO, but they're very small HO. Oops, excuse me. It's kind of weird. All right, so I'm going to switch over to handheld camera mode here so that hopefully we can get a good shot of this going, assuming it actually goes or can pull all these cars. All right, so power on, direction set, and here we go. Look at that. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. Pulling like a champion. Bag full of scrap model train parts. And there happen to be all the parts except for the drawbar for this little tiny Rivarossi, whatever you want to call it, steam engine, made in Italy, probably, who knows when, 30, 40 years ago. Piece it together and look at her go. And she's pulling all those cars really well. Let's crank up the speed and let her fly. Look at that. I better slow her down before she derails. It even sounds really good. Sounds nice and smooth and reasonably quiet. For what it is. It definitely needs more internal cleaning, like the motor and whatnot. But damn, for like I say, an old model engine that I got in a grab bag of parts, that's pretty darn good. All right, so that's this video. I thought you might enjoy this. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but it did. So that's a happy little thing. All right, hope you liked the video. Hope you'll make some comments on it. Hope you guys will subscribe to our channel, because I want to make more of these videos, especially now that Rickety Railroad looks a little less rickety. I've finally built a real table, and I got a nice piece of foam that's actually flat instead of that other piece of junk. And I have a video on building the table, so we'll show that at a later date. All right, see you guys later.